before we get into this and start watching the video, I just want to say I am not a Xanderhaul hater. I'm actually like a decent amount of a Xanderhaul fan. He helped me. He was actually one of the first people I watched when I started getting into politics. I think I watched him before Destiny and Vosh at the same time. I think through him, I got into Destiny and I got into Vosh. And now I watch Destiny and, well, I watch Vosh a lot more. I watch Destiny like the same amount I watch Xanderhaul. And he helped me like open my eyes to like the politic field and just get me into like being a based Chad leftist, you know. I really like. So I'm coming into this as a Xanderhaul fan, you know, and I'm coming into this like knowing Brittany is wrong. She's very very fucking wrong, and you can see with the shit that she says throughout this whole video. But the reason why I want to cover this is because Xanderhaul has been trying to go into debates for the past year, and overall, he's doing pretty good, honestly. He went on Hippy Dippy, and he got really, really far, and he got way farther than he thought he did. And he did really well, like, defending his arguments, you know, putting out arguments, and, you know, doing all that jazz. But when it comes to this, I don't think he did a good job, like, defending or, like, arguing against, like, the raising of white people, which is something which should be like a slam dunk, because that's not happening. That's not happening in America. This is just a conspiracy theory that you can just easily like throw out, put in stats, and just destroy the other person. But he comes into this way too good faith, because he says during this video, and we'll get to it, and how he says that he doesn't think she's a racist. And I think that, and he says that his chat is gonna get mad that he's a racist, but I think that lands on that he's coming into this way too good faith, because she does some shit in this debate that like really should have showed Xander that she's not. She might be coming to good faith, but there's a good chance that she's not, because she interrupts him. She every time Xander tries to talk, she shushes him. Again, we'll get into the video going on that. But overall, I don't think he does a good job here. And hopefully, if he does watch this video, hopefully he'll see that, you know, I'm just trying to help him right here. I'm not trying to like dismantle him or like being like, oh, Zan, you're so bad, get out of here. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to help this man. But yeah, we'll get into the video right now.
Hey everybody, today we're debating immigration, and we are starting right now.
And I'm not usually doing what the hell's happened. And I'm not usually doing what I do, and that is playing Battlefield while reviewing a debate, because I want to give my full attention to this.
Brittany's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us, Brittany. The floor is all yours.
Okay. All right, so I did write something up. I don't normally like to read things because I'm a little blind, but I'm going to do it anyways. So before I get my opening, I just want to say I'm not normally on this side of the debate. In fact, this is my very first debate. So this will be a new one for me. Hoping Xander.
And this is her first debate, and Xanderhaul does so bad. Again, we'll get into it.
Kind enough not to use those crafty little voodoo debate bro tricks on me, and have a good faith discussion, which I think he will. But for those who don't already know me, I was once the left-wing host of Politically Provoked. Over the past year, that went from left-wing host to centrist host to now just host. Got into politics through Trump.
And what she means by host, she means alt-right host, because the show that she runs, she used to be the left-wing host, which we'll get into that a little bit more, because I'm just saying overall, I don't think she was ever left-wing, but we'll get into that. And especially lefty. She says she's a lefty, and there's no way she's a fucking lefty, ever was, because it's the way she talks and the way she says she thought, like, when she was a lefty. But again, she runs a far-right white supremacist YouTube channel. But yeah, I think that should have been like point number one, sus number one.
Hated him, thought he was the worst president to ever take office. I supported basically every left-wing policy you can think of. Open borders was one of those things. I've gone through a lot of the same views as most lefties have, and one of those has been the white guilt that we see everywhere. So I thought getting straight...
Again, that's not lefty. if you're a white person and you experience white guilt and you think like you should bow down to like to minorities and people of color, and she'd be like, "Oh, the white people, we are so bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." You're not a leftist. You're like a rad lib. You're not a leftist. So I don't know why she says she's a leftist.
White men out of power would be a good thing, and
Again, she said, over here, let's go back.
we see everywhere. So I thought getting straight white men out of power.
That's not what leftism is. Getting straight white men is not what leftism is. That is just like this fucking stupid ass rad lib, like fucking thoughts. What leftism is getting the bourgeois out of here. And that it just happens to be straight white men most of the time. But just because a lot of the bourgeois is straight white men doesn't mean we're getting rid of straight white men. We're just getting rid of the bourgeois. And the bourgeois are like the people who are billionaires, and they control the means of the production, and they're like the CEOs, you know? They're not like, if you're like a small business person who like runs a little mom and pop shop, you're not a bourgeois because you don't own millions.
Power would be a good thing, and white men have just been horrible for us.
There you go. That's not leftist.
Little Timmy. Now,
oh, little Timmy. I think Xanderhaul does a really poor job combating against the little Timmy argument, and I'll give you some options to debunk all that.
Today, Xanderhaul might be able to unred me, because I've been looking for somebody to do that, and as of yet, nobody has managed to get it done. So maybe you can be that guy. If you don't already know who Little Timmy is, he is a hypothetical character of what happens when white people become a minority. So basically, he is now the only white kid in a class of blacks, Latinos, and all the other groups we have living here. And every single minority group seems to have some sort of grievance against white people. And why shouldn't they, given our history, everything we are being pumped with, slavery, Jim Crow, CRT, all the horrible things white people have done, and all the anti-white...
I don't know how CRT is like one of the horrible things white people has done, but when you look back at... I'm not going to do like the hate white people thing. I think that's very cringe. But when she says like slavery and Jim Crow, like you need to teach that in school. Like that is part of American history. That's a huge chunk of American history. You need to teach that. And there's like no way to like really teach that without having white people come out as looking bad. But again, we need to like, but there can be a way to teach it that again makes white people look bad, because there's like no way to make white people look bad. But we can teach it in a way to not have like people of color hate white people. On that, I think I was going to say something else. I forgot.
White rhetoric that's going through, and it's basically mainstream now. So it's not going to be good for little Timmy when he's the only white kid, and I don't think white people will be given the same protections as minority groups currently have.
First of all, white people do have the same protections as minority groups have. I think they actually have a bit more, since they have majority of control of this country.
Because most of the sentiment you hear is, oh well, they have it coming. So if it's like that when we are still the majority, what's it going to be like?
Again, she says like a majority of people. Again, it's not a majority of people. It's a very small minority of people in Twitter. And of course, you can find any opinion about anything on Twitter, because Twitter's a hellhole, I've been told. I have Twitter, but I barely use it.
Like when we are the minority. That kind of stuff really concerns me, and no one has been able to address those concerns or ease some of those fears. So again, maybe Xanderhaul will be able to change that, as I'm open to hearing it. One thing we can say is white people becoming a minority is basically inevitable at this point. So for me, I want to slow down the process as much as possible.
It's inevitable at this point because it's just the way we categorize white people. White people categorize white people as just the lack of race is what. So when a white person, has a kid with a person of color, that kid is not white. And so it's like it has to go down, because white people are gonna become a minority because of the way they define white people. So that's more on the racist white people than on just the minority.
Possible, and closing the borders is a good first step. Now, personally, I don't care about a multiracial and multicultural society, as I don't have any of my own issues with anyone else.
Because of the shit she says in this whole this whole debate, as you can see further, I do not believe her one bit.
And I have no hate in my heart for anyone.
That's not... I guarantee she has some hate.
I wish it wasn't like this, but this is the reality, and a multiracial society has not worked. Lefties love to paint this ideal world we wish we lived in, but that doesn't tend to align with reality. And when you point those things out, you are called a racist, a Nazi, or a bigot, instead of just pointing out uncomfortable truths. Perhaps I never took any issue with this because I wasn't able to see the damage it was actually causing until someone pointed it out in a way that made sense. Not to mention everything that happened with the summer riots, which was also a huge wake-up call that made it clear to me I just don't like the direction things are heading. So as I started to think about it more and conversations I've had with other lefties, that kind of future became a pretty easy thing for
Again, so the summer riots shit, again, it's bad, and we should condemn it, but again, like, she said she was a left-leaning person before, and Xanderhaul could have been like, okay, you don't like the summer riots. Well, the civil rights movement had a bunch of riots, and look at what they achieved. They achieved, like, a lot of great fucking things. So he could have been like, okay, so the civil rights movement had, you know, riots, you know. So, you know, so are you against the civil rights movement? And you could pin her on that. But again, you know, I have hindsight right now.
See happening. Why we have so many white liberals pushing this narrative is beyond me, and I wish more lefties would wake up to how dangerous some of the rhetoric is and the kind of damage it is causing. But I used to be one of those lefties. So until
I thought me and Zan had like the same type of gaming chair, but we don't. It's different. He has a whatever that I can't read backwards.
Someone can unred pill me, those days are over, and it's time to close the borders. Xanderhaul, you are up.
Again, she's like from open borders, she says to like closed borders, like let nobody in. I think, and she wants like white people to stay a majority. So again, that would mean just close off the borders to colored nations, and that is like super racist and like super sus as well.
Thank you very much for that opening, Brittany. And I want to let you know, folks, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, we are a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome.
Modern Day Debate is cool. I only watch it when Destiny Vosh is not really on it anymore, and Xanderhaul and like other people are on it. But I always like the host. The host is funny, especially if you guys remember I don't know if you guys remember, we should watch the video of him, of Vosh debating. I forgot what he debated a guy on, but but it came to the point of Aldrin's number, and that shit was fucking hilarious.
No matter what walk of life you are from, thrilled to have you here. And don't forget to hit that
Aldrin's
subscribe
number,
button for
not
many
Aldrin's.
juicy debates coming up. For example, does Islam require the domination of, or I should say, does liberalism require the domination of Islam nations? Between Destiny and Daniel Hikachu coming up at our in-person conference this month. It's going to be juicy, and you don't want to miss it. So with that, we're going to jump into Xander's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have much in the way of opening statements. When it comes to a situation like this, as Brittany said, the influx of obviously non-white people into this country and many other white countries is going to continue to happen just naturally. This is the way that humanity has acted for a long time. We're going to integrate. We're going to intermarry, mingle and whatnot. It's just something that's going to inevitably happen. I think the main issue that I have with Brittany's entire argument is that the onus is on her to prove that this is a real problem that's actually happening. The reason why I struggle to create an opening statement, I guess, is because there's not much that I feel like I have to argue from the get-go, right? Immigration is good. It's good for the economy. Seems that exposure to people of different races and ethnicities is good to prevent racism. Seems to help our society. You mentioned that multiracial societies haven't worked. I'm not sure if you're aware, but America is the most successful country on the planet and is quite multiracial.
I can't really blame Xanderhaul for this because I know a lot of people don't know history, but actually Rome, especially like I think towards the later half, or I forget when, but Rome was a huge diverse nation. It was very successful, and one of the reasons why it fell is because they started like being antagonistic against a certain group, a certain race, and that race ended up being an enemy of Rome because Rome was treating them like shit, and Rome was actually, I think, kidnapping their children and selling them to slavery. That specific group, I forget what it's called. It might be Hans, the Hans, I forget. But again, that should Rome and what happened with Rome and how Rome fell would be like a great equivocation to this, and saying how, like, United States is Rome. If we keep letting people in, it'll make our country better. But if we start thinking the way that she's thinking right now, that would lead to the downfall of the United States.
Yeah, that's really all there is to say. We can go back and forth if you want. I wrote down some of your points, and I guess if you want to, we can go one by one.
Sure.
Yeah. We'll just keep it an open conversation then.
Did you want to address something in specific I said, or do you want me to?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Do you want to start with the little Timmy question?
Sure.
Yeah, so the funny thing about the little Timmy question, or the little Timmy hypothetical, is it's not even really a hypothetical. Stuff like that happens on both sides today. There are black students who are made fun of in majority white schools or whatever, and there are white students in majority black schools that get made fun of for being white. I don't know
True,
why
I have experienced
you use
this
hypothetical or this little Timmy question as an example of how racial animus in this country could just suddenly flip sides, and we could
I'll let him finish.
Anti-white society. It just doesn't really seem like we're heading down that road. That kind of thing happens now. This seems like if you want to prevent a problem like this, the solution is exposure. People who are exposed to people of other races more often tend to be less racist. What you're advocating for, a shutdown on immigration, a slowing down of the integration of different races and ethnicities into our society, is only going to result in more racially based tribalism. It's only going to result in more of that racial animosity. Things like Jim Crow and things like segregation only increased the amount of tension between the races. It didn't make things better.
And he should add to this. This is another huge thing against the little Timmy question. So she wants to get rid of, or not rid of minorities, but she wants to stop minorities from coming in. And if you say, like, okay, you get rid of minorities in America, you know what's going to happen. White people are going to start turning on each other, because that's what happened before. Italians, they weren't considered white. They were treated like dog shit. And Irish people, they were treated horribly in this country when they first came in. They're actually called the white, N-words with the hard R. They weren't seen as white. They were seen as subhuman, just like black people and other minorities when that shit happened. And the reason why they stopped calling Italians and Irish people that is because they saw that if they keep treating them like garbage, they're gonna become friends with the other minorities, and they could come together and destroy the white supremacy system. So again, you can use that argument. You can say, okay, you can kick all the minorities out, but it's going to revert back to where the white people are going to turn on each other, because the only reason why white people are white people in America is because we are very, very racially diverse. If you go to Europe separate themselves. There's no such thing as white people in Europe. There's Anglo-Saxons, there's Irish people, there's Scottish people, there's Germans, French, and all that. And you can use the little Timmy question, like Irish people, they get bullied when they go into a United when they go into a British school because of them being Irish. So again, it's like this whole tribalism thing where when it comes to the United States, white people are white people because of all the minorities, and so that's why white people are white people. So you can argue that, okay, so if we keep letting people in, it could even come into a bit closer. We can all just become American instead of just white, black, brown, whatever. We could become American, because that's what happened with white people. You can use that argument against her, and this is not something he ever uses on in this debate. And I think that's a really good, strong argument to use against her.
Do you think there is no anti-white hate that goes on?
Of course there is. Matter of fact, I've been debating a lot of these people, and funnily enough, you mentioned that it was mostly white liberals pushing this sort of anti-white narrative, and I think we disagree on a lot on what this anti-white narrative may be. But one thing I do want to point out is that there are people that I call out that claim to be on the left who are absolutely anti-white, and I think also anti-black. I think if you are racist towards white people, if you are against the idea of races integrating, then you are just as much a danger to the rights and the liberty of white people as you are to black people. An example of this is Hoteps. Hoteps are radical black separatists who want
Everything he's saying right now is facts.
an ethno-state and will work with neo-Nazis
I don't really
to
disagree with
achieve
anything he's saying right now.
I think that type of behavior, that actual anti-white racism...
It starts becoming bad, like, a little bit later on in this segment, in this part of the video, and then, like, he starts getting good again toward the end.
You see from that group is not coming from white liberals at all. They hate liberals. They hate BLM. These contemporary left-wing movements that are advocating for racial justice have little to no connection to actual substantial groups that push anti-white hate. Is there white guilt out there? Are there cringy people out there who behave in a certain way because they're white and give black people a pass on anything? Absolutely. And I think on a case-by-case basis it's worth working against those people. But to just put up a shield and say, no, we got to stop immigration, we got to cut down on it, we got to stop this white replacement thing, which we can get into more in a minute because I don't even agree with the theory there. I don't know. It just seems like you're going about solving this potential problem.
I think there's another thing right here that's like subtle, but it shows like he's coming off too good faith and he's giving her too much charity. Is he called the white replacement a theory? No, you should call it a conspiracy theory, or just like call it a different name to make it sound worse. Because it is bad. It is very, very bad. It's not a good theory at all. It's not even well, it is a theory, but again, you should call it a different name.
Problem in the exact wrong way.
How is it the wrong way? I mean, again, because it's literally mainstream right now for you to be anti-white. It's okay, like you see it everywhere.
Give me an example of mainstream anti-whiteness?
Wasn't that like in the Coca-Cola meetings or something they were talking about? I would have to actually like look this up, but I remember there was an article about how they were.
I don't know if Zan knows this, but that article was like, it wasn't even an article. It was just like this cringy like person who just put into this one meeting. It was just this one meeting that this cringy person, and she was like, I didn't even read it honestly, but you can also, it doesn't really matter, but you can just say, oh, it was just like this one offhand shoot thing that didn't really happen again. And the once everybody caught wind of it, nobody liked it. Not even minorities liked it.
They were talking about anti-white stuff. I have a bunch of quotes actually that I can pull up too if you want to, that are very mainstream.
Yeah, and that's not mainstream at all. So he should have rejected it, but I don't think he does.
But what did they say? I mean, you can criticize any individual case. That, like, I'm fine with that. The problem is that you're broadening this to be a massive issue at the left. Like, the entire idea behind it.
He says, oh, it's a broadening to a massive issue in the left. He should have been, that's not mainstream. Everybody does not like that. Instead of saying, oh, and then it's going on this like spiel about it.
At least what I advocate for is a rising tide raises all ships. We're not trying to take white people out of power and replace them with black people in power. We're not trying to take white people out of the country and replace them. I'm sure you've got plenty of examples of people on the left being enabling anti-white racism or even perpetuating it. Why not call those instances out individually?
Let me just show you a few.
Look, she's trying to interrupt him right now. You see that? That, just keep in mind how many times she interrupts him or tries to interrupt him during this video, because it's a problem and an issue I have with him, like when it comes on to later on in the video, and you'll see when.
A few examples of like how mainstream it is and how okay it is. So you had, let's see here. We got from the Don Lemon saying white men are a domestic terror threat. Anderson Cooper, whites becoming minority is an exciting transformation for our country. Van Jones, even the most liberal, well-intentioned white person has a racist virus in his or her brain that can be activated at an instance. John Brennan, I'm increasingly embarrassed to be a white male these days.
Wait,
I mean, I can keep
wait,
going
wait.
on and on.
Hold on.
Okay.
You don't have to read me quotes
Well, I'm just
from
telling you that it's this
prominent
like
people
literally
who've said
mainstream.
iffy things.
Hold on, this is literally
Let me look this
mainstream
up.
to be anti-white, and if it's that way when we are the majority, what is it going to be like when we're the minority?
Don't you think that maybe the tendency for people to engage in rhetoric that maybe pokes fun at or is sometimes even
Hold up,
hostile towards
Let me see this and see if she's right or there's any like context to this. During a recent segment about the supermarket shooting in Kentucky, CNN host Don Lemon says the biggest terror in this threat is white men. Lemon speaking on live television about an incident in which a white man allegedly shot and killed 2 black people inside a Kroger grocery store in Jeffersontown, Kentucky, not far from Louisville. The incident, which is being investigated as a hate crime, occurred in the same week that 13% potential explosive devices were sent to prominent Democratic media figures across the country, and 11 people were killed in a mass shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh. A white man was charged in the latter case. Okay, let's see. I was trying to point out that people do not demonize any one group or one ethnicity, but we keep thinking that the biggest terror threat is something else. Some people who are marching towards the border like is imminent. Lennon Tonsi and then Chris Cuomo referring. Okay, Central America, migrant credit. Okay, so this is. He added that last time they did this, a couple hundred people came and most of them didn't get to the country. Most of them got taken out before they even got to the border. So he said we just have to demonize people. We realize the biggest threat in this country is white men. Most of them radicalized to the right, and we start doing something. Okay, so you can defend him. You can say like, oh, he should have been a lot more careful for his words, but he was like right on a point that like alt-right violence and like lone wolf violence like was like on the rise, because it is, and it's happening a lot of the times, and a lot of those people are white people. So you could have defended what he said there. But you could have said, yeah, his words was bad, his wording of that was bad, but you can say he has a decent point.
white people might be because our society has come to an understanding broadly that the amount of objective harm caused by jokes or comments at the expense of white people typically don't have that same outcome. I think that's why you see a lot less. Hold on. I think that's why you see a lot less pushback against that kind of thing. Is it okay? No. I don't know the context of every quote that you just listed to me, but if the context is as you said it was, then I don't like any of those people and I don't like what they said. And you can call those people out on their individual, like what they've said. But I don't think there's a trend in the left to be anti-white. I don't think it's nearly as big as you're making out to be. And trust me, listen, Brittany, I get called no-lip white boy by hoteps and literal anti-white racists every single day.
Again, another interruption.
A radical group of usually black activists that typically call themselves black separatists. They're in favor of a black ethno-state, and they're willing to work with neo-Nazis and white supremacists to achieve it.
So maybe
they typically hate Jewish people and stuff like that. They're basically black Nazis.
So basically, these are people that are also looking out for their own self-interest and realize that being around people that are going to hate them is not really working out for them either.
So Xanderhaul just said that Hotep's worked with neo-Nazis and the KKK. And her response is, that's not bad. Maybe they should work with neo-Nazis and KKK members, to make ethno-states all across the world. This is a huge red flag. This is automatically you're a racist right here, right now. But Xanderhaul says later that he doesn't think that she's a racist. So my problem with this is that he's giving her way too much charity. He's coming into this way too good faith. And later on in his video, she like steamrolls him. And like, again, we'll get onto it when it happens.
I mean, I don't know if that's technically a horrible thing. I think maybe it's just kind of, self-preservation on their own parts. And
I mean, I don't know what hating the Jews and claiming that
I don't know about
what's her name? What I'm trying to remember her name. She was in the Holocaust. She was in the attic. She wrote the book. Anne Frank. Yeah, Anne Frank. They hate Anne Frank. Listen, all right, I'm tired, okay? They hate Anne Frank. They think she was a fake Jew and deserved to die in the Holocaust. I don't know what that has to do with self-preservation, but
well, yeah, I don't know about all that, but I have seen some of these like black nationalists who kind of push for a lot of the same things that some of the white nationalists will push for, where they want to separate. And I don't know if that's such a bad thing. Why live with people
It objectively
that
is.
Hate you? I mean,
do you think white people hate black people?
I think that
Broadly?
there are a lot of problems that happen in this country due to a multiracial society that we can't address because there's so much infighting. I was looking up, actually, for this debate, I was looking up what the
There you go. Like, she's just said right there that white people and people of color should just fundamentally not work together because white people hate, or like, yeah, she just said white people hate people of color. Again, that right there is like a red on the dot racist like fucking talking point.
happiest countries are. You want to know what they are? Can I give them to you?
And they're here, right here, the happiest countries right here. And she says this, but if Xanderhaul, I think he was off his game right here. I think maybe he was too high, or maybe too tired, or like maybe not even like wanting to stream that night, because sometimes I don't want to stream, you know, and like I think my last stream I didn't feel like streaming, so I didn't feel like that was a good stream or I had a good like performance giving you guys it. But here it just this is like a good, like, once she says the shit that she says, I have like a really good argument against it.
All
I'm
right.
pretty sure they're like Scandinavian countries, right?
I'm gonna do it,
European
Xander.
countries.
So, number 1, Switzerland. Number 2, Iceland. Number 3, Denmark, Norway, Canada, Finland, Netherlands, Sweden, New Zealand, Australia. Do you sense a theme there?
Yeah, so most of them are social democracies with a lot of
Yeah, but maybe they
access
are
to
like that because they're
secure
also
social
homogenous
safety nets.
countries that are able.
There you go. He said one thing that was really good, saying that a lot of them are social democracies. They have like really good social welfare programs. B, they have what's it called? Free healthcare, and they have like a really good. They actually achieve the American dream. You know, the American dream is you can start with nothing and grow to be like the richest person ever. Those countries actually achieve that dream a lot better than the United States. But she like rejects that point, which Xanderhaul is objectively true, and she says the reason why those countries are happy because they're very homogenous, which means they're all like pretty much one race. Which I don't think Australia is. I think Australia is pretty diverse. But here's a really good argument against that. Japan is very, very homogenous, but everybody in that country is super fucking depressed. That country has so high suicide levels. The levels up there are so ridiculously high, and the reason for that is because they don't bring in more people from other countries, because they don't have like they don't like they need other people in that country to give their own thoughts, to put in more jobs, you know, so they wouldn't work as hard or as much. So that's a really good argument against that. It's Japan, because Japan is very homogenous, but they're very, very, very like depressed.
To address a lot of those issues. Do you know there's studies that show when you are scared, you become more conservative. When you are liberal, you're going to become when
yes,
you
and people are afraid.
Yeah, and that should be a huge, like, I don't understand how she says that. When you're afraid, you become more conservative. That is true. So conservatism is just just an emotion-based like thought process, you know? It's just you're not thinking logically when you're scared most of the time, because you just want to get away from something as fast as possible. And that maybe something that you think you're scared of is not actually the thing that's making you scared, you know? So that's like, I don't understand, like, he should have combat that more. Maybe he does. Maybe I paused it too early. But again, but with her, I don't understand like how that doesn't like seep in your brain. Like, okay, the reason why I am conservative is because I'm scared. I'm not thinking right. The reason why a lot of people are leaning to the left, more progressive, is because they're not scared. They're more accepting of people and like shit like that.
Afraid of the unknown, and what you're advocating for is to make brown people more unknown to white people, and vice versa. What you're advocating for, all the data and everything that we've collected having to do with exposure to other races has shown that contact with people who aren't the same race as you, it just explicitly just massively decreases the likelihood of you being racist or holding racist ideas. Like what you're advocating for right now will only make different races more afraid of other races because they're going to be more unknown.
He doesn't say here, but right here where he ended, it was a perfect opportunity to say that white people used to be afraid of each other all the time and all that. So there was a perfect opportunity for him to say here, to combat it with saying, okay, if you get rid of minorities, the white people in this country will stop seeing each other as white people and will actually start attacking each other, because that's what fascism leads to. If you don't have an enemy, fascism, you need an enemy to have fascism. So if there's no enemy of like other people of color, they start making enemies of themselves in their groups.
Or
less familiar.
I mean, I see, like, I get that at this point there's nothing we could really technically do about this. I'm not somebody who's saying, oh, let's go round up all the people that are different races or whatever and send them back. I'm not. I'm realistic, but I do think that we can kind of slow down the process of how fast this is happening, because
She's realistic. Yes, she wants to close the borders, even though Xanderhaul did give this point that if you close down the borders, you're going to drastically hurt the economy, because a lot of our economy is from immigrants and immigrant workers.
what's happening, and I'm noticing it big time. And again, I know people don't believe me, but I really was left wing. I was very left wing, and I had all.
She was not. She might have been left wing, but she says she was a lefty, and she's not a lefty. She was never a lefty. She might have been left wing, but she was that cringe ass left wing that I do not like.
I was for open borders. I didn't see any problems with this, but maybe it was the riots that happened that kind of like freaked me out, and then hearing it in a way that really did resonate. But what do you think is going to happen when you are bringing in all these different people and you are teaching them how bad white people are and all the bad things that white people are? And do you think that they're not?
I think he should say this. I don't think he does, but he just said, just because white people do something bad, like slavery in America, like Jim Crow, doesn't mean white people are bad. A lot of people we'll take that from it. Just because white people done shit in the past are bad, even now that are bad, doesn't mean white people are bad.
Not going to end up hating white people.
What are they teaching in school that you think is making people hate white people?
So I was actually so every time I talk about critical race theory, I'm getting different definitions. I feel like maybe that's somewhat to do with the fact we live in a country where every state kind of teaches.
This is my fault, but I should know. I really should look up critical race theory, because this is the whole thing. But maybe not, because it was a big talking point like in the middle of last year. No one really talks about it anymore, because it was just a conservative like fear mongering thing. And again, they always have something to fear monger against, because conservatism like leads people to fear. So they always need something to fear. So they just chose critical race theory. And then they're not talking about it anymore, or not nearly as much as it did before. So maybe I don't really need to know it anymore, but it'll probably be nice just in case, just random people just start yelling, "Oh, because critical race theory," and I would know what it is. Okay, what you're saying, what critical race theory isn't actually critical race theory, and shit like that. But I will keep my eye on the next thing that conservatives will fearmonger about.
Just things differently, so you don't really know exactly what each state is doing. But I did look up, okay, what critical race theory, and here's what it is. So critical race theory is an intellectual movement.
I already heard this, but I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm gonna keep it playing. Hopefully Xanderhaul does not do something that I have to criticize him for.
And a framework of legal analysis according to which race is a culturally invented category used to oppress people of color, and the law and legal institutions of the United States are inherently racist insofar they function to create and maintain social, political, and economic inequalities between white people and non-whites. And then, hold on. Why is critical race theory important? Critical race theory is important because it potentially provides a more realistic understanding of white racism in the US as not merely a set of negative attitudes toward other racial groups, but also a body of law and legal practices whose real world effect is the oppression of people of color, especially African Americans. These things being taught, these things being taught in our schools, showing how bad white people are and all these horrible things that white people are doing and all
They're
the
not teaching this in schools. The things that are getting taught in schools, the things these Republican politicians are trying to clamp down on and ban in our schools, are things like reading about Ruby Bridges and MLK. That's legitimately what they're trying to ban. They don't want slavery to be taught. They don't want Jim Crow or segregation to be taught. What you're advocating for, what you're saying right now, and I
Oh yeah, that is true. What he said right there, if I remember right. I did hear that some schools were actually gonna ban teaching segregation, teaching that America did segregation, and that America had slavery, and that and Martin Luther King. They will not teach anything Martin Luther King did in schools, and they'll call it like, oh, they did it because it's critical race theory. You know, it's making white people, they feel bad about themselves and making other people hate white people, and it's just like the fear mongering that they use. They never ever wanted schools to teach that about America because they want to think that America is perfect, is squeaky clean, and the more people learn about that, the more they learn that America isn't perfect. America needs to get better, and like the people in power right now actually need to get out because they're the ones that are making this country worse.
know you won't say it, but it's what you mean. You believe that teaching students the actual history of this country, a history that unfortunately does involve white people doing a lot of really bad, horrible, racist shit. I'm sorry, but that's just the history of our country, and that's the history of a lot of countries out there. If teaching the truth results in having this outcome, then we need to engage in different types of rhetoric to help combat whatever white guilt or anti-white sentiment that you may think is becoming a huge problem. And there is people out there that are like that, and like I said, argue against them individually. But what you're arguing right now, at least it seems to me, is that teaching kids the reality of what this country has been and what has happened is going to result in people becoming more anti-white, and thus we need to either not teach that or just keep non-white people out of the country, or find some way to slow down the influx of non-white people into the country, because God knows what happens if they learn that white people did slavery. You know,
what he said wasn't bad. It was good, actually. But I don't think he should have just added that just because white people did things, like I said, like white people did things in the past that are bad, doesn't mean that white people are inherently bad, because they're not. White people are not inherently bad. White people aren't bad overall, and even like a little bit, they're not bad. It's just a lot of people, and especially like it's just people do bad shit, you know. And he should just added that into like the ending of his argument. That should have just made it sound a little bit better to the audience instead of to her, because I think it is also another problem. I think over here he tries to save her. She says she wants to be saved. This bitch don't want to be saved. She's not going to be saved. No one can save her. No stranger can ever save her. I think the only people that can save her is people like her family members, someone she cares deeply about. But she's surrounding herself with white supremacists. So again, that'll be super hard to get her out. And no stranger will ever get her out. It has to be the job of a person she knows that deeply cares for her in order to get her out of this mental state. So I think that's a reason why he's trying to help her get her out of this mind state. But there's no like a 0% chance, almost a 0% chance that he's going to get her out of this mind state. So instead of talking to her, he should have talked to the audience, because the audience, you could plant a little seed in her brain, you know, and get them to come to our side, because a lot of them are not as far gone as she is.
Yeah.
They might go out
That's
there.
what I would do.
This reminds me, like, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to be like condescending or mean or anything, but this reminds me, I was in 4th grade, and I was like, I think I was 9 years old. It was 2008. And Obama had just gotten elected. It was the day after the election. You know, Obama that morning had been announced, like, yep, Obama's new president. And we were on the playground, 4th grade, and there's this girl that I went to school with named Eden sitting on a bench on the playground crying. And I walk up to her and I ask her, why are you crying? And she says she's scared that Obama is going to bring back slavery, but for white people, and it's going to force white people to become slaves as payback for like slavery. And she was crying her eyes out. She fully believed this. And this is what this reminds me of. That thought process is what this reminds me of. Do you believe that like the minority groups in this country are going to try to take revenge on white people?
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you say the last part again? You said that a white person was worried.
That was a good, I will say, Xanderhaul. That's a really, that was actually a good story to say, because it shows that like that fear can be like childish, and it leads you down to like stupid ass fucking results to your brain that's like no way of any shape or form of happening. So I really like that he said that statement.
Worried that Obama. Wait, I'm sorry.
When I was in 4th grade, one of my classmates, the day after Obama got elected, I went to school, and it was I think it was on a Wednesday.
But then he fucks it up here. He kind of fucks it up by giving out these just more extra details that are just like no reason for him to give out. Like, why are you giving just like making it a lot longer than it needs to be? You should have just said the same shit again, and it would just been like more like to the point, and just like it would have hit a lot harder instead of just like, I think he was just trying to make a joke or something, but it just doesn't land.
I don't have to do the whole setup. Just give me
I just told you the story. One of my classmates, she was white, sitting on the bench at recess, crying because she thought that as payback for slavery, Obama was going to bring back slavery for white people and enslave white people. Okay. And it seems like, and I'm not saying what you're claiming is on the same level of ridiculousness as that, though it's close, but I think
like
the thought process is similar.
A little bit right now, Xanderhaul. Like, really...
Again, she's like, "Oh, he's gas. She's gone. She's gone. You're not gonna get her back. You're not. A stranger is not getting her back from this far down fucking hole. You're not." Again, he's trying to save her. Don't save her. This bitch cannot be saved. She don't want to be saved. What did that J. Cole song say? Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Don't she? That's what's happening right now.
I do, because I feel like, I mean, I've been seeing this happen a lot more, and I see the anti-white hatred that keeps rising, and the fact that, again, it's so mainstream and it's okay, and we are still the majority. So I think that when you take into account the fact we are going to become a minority, and if you look at other countries where this is happening, yes, okay, I know that like South Africa and Rhodesia and all this stuff is pointed to, and they were technically, white people were always the minority, but Black people did have a grievance against white people there, and the second that they were able to take any kind of control, they did, and like it wasn't good for white people. And
again, we're not South Africa. We're not South Africa. We are America. We have a different history than South Africa. I don't even know that much about South Africa, but again, it's in South Africa, there's like white people and black people. Over here, we have more than that. We have Asians, we have Mexican, Latinos, and Middle Easterns, a lot of them over here. So we don't, you can't compare the both. We're just fundamentally different countries. And if you do want to compare to something, you can compare to Brazil. A lot of white people are in Brazil as well. There's a lot more black people in Brazil and than in the United States. And white people in that country are actually the minority, yet they hold the most power in that country. And they're not being brutalized, they're not being killed, they're not being penalized, the white people in that country. So again, it's just not like a good analogy, and you can just stop there. Like, we're not South Africa, we are America. We have different histories, we have different results for shit.
And think about the grievances that black people here are going to have are far greater than you're going to have over in those countries where they weren't slaves.
And it's also racist as fuck, because she's saying that all black people think the same, which is not true. Not true at all.
Do you think the socio-political position of black people in this country is comparable to that of South Africa?
I think that black
he kind of does it here.
A fucking grievance. Like, okay, when you talk about, okay, say you want to,
but he doesn't push and like doesn't like invoke what I said like as much as he needed to. He does like a small portion of it.
Go for people who have been oppressed, which, like, you know, you got the Holocaust Jews and stuff. Jews have like actually come out of that, and they are you know, they've done very well for themselves. So the grievances that they could possibly have are going to be not quite the same. Whereas black people never really have been able to get out of what has happened. It's gone from generation to generation to generation, and they have been stuck in this. And so that's carried on for sure. But one thing, like, I also think of with slave, what do you think, like, child abuse and stuff was like back during the time of slavery? Do you think that it was okay for parents to, like, use a belt or to beat their child? I mean, that was kind of somewhat the norm, wasn't it? Discipline, as far as discipline.
God knows my mom whipped out the belt if I so much as talked back. Okay,
Right.
Trust me, I had plenty a beating as a child, so I can confirm that still happens today.
Right,
So I don't know if that analogy will work for me.
It's a bit more frowned upon. Like, you can't be using, a belt to, like, you can get arrested.
I don't know where
if
she's
you do
going
something
with
like
this.
that. You use an actual tool to discipline your child. Right?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Wait, I want to ask you a question. I don't know if this is related to where we're going, but
Yeah, I think when I watched it the first time, I don't even know if they go back to what she was talking about. I don't know what the fuck she was talking about there, about like beating your kids or something. I don't know what what point she was trying to make there. I don't even think they go back to it. I actually want them to go back to it.
but I guess this is just like the fundamental question I have for you.
Okay.
So right now, in the world, in America, right now, there are majority black schools where a few white kids go there, and exactly the little Timmy question happens to them. And that type of behavior comes from, at least so it seems, sociologists seem to agree, seems to come from the segregation of our society on an economic level. Black people in this country are typically
True, this is a
relegated
good part.
to poorer neighborhoods that are typically majority non-white. And so when you have like one or two white kids that are zoned to a school in a black neighborhood, then there's only going to be a couple of white kids and then like a bunch of black kids, right? And when you feel that different, when you stick out that much, you may be the target of bullying, and that's a thing that happens now. So with what I said before, we know that exposure decreases people's racism. Basically, when you're exposed to people of a different race, you tend to be less racist. Wouldn't the solution or the policy you should be advocating for, shouldn't it be one of
Class.
restoration, or sorry, revolution of our systems, either fixing or completely tearing down and recreating of the systems in this country that result in that disparity and that economic segregation, so that we have a more integrated society where, like, your neighbor across the street is Asian, the guy down the street's from Mexico, the guy up the street's from Puerto Rico, your next door neighbor is black. Don't you think that when neighborhoods are far more multicultural, don't you think you're going to have less bullying?
She just we have sources for this, that the more you interact with other people of color and you're more diverse, the less racist it gets. The more people are actually happy with each other because they're less racist. And she just fundamentally disagrees with it. She disagrees with the facts. Again, she can't be saved. Don't save her. But I will say that's a really good point with Zan. And I know he doesn't call himself a socialist because he doesn't want to, like, and a lefty because he doesn't want to be like interact with those people. But again, he could have. And I don't think he could have, but he did. He did put it into like that fundamental class-based structure. This isn't a race issue. This is a class issue. With that good old socialism lefty talking point. That's really good.
Bullying for this type of thing?
No, I think there's going to be a lot more infighting. And I think because I think that that's just like human nature, that you're going to have those you're going to be wanting self-preservation, you are going to have infighting, and this is exactly what we're seeing in America in general. We are unable to address
this just isn't borne out in the data.
Literally, are you kidding me? There's so many problems we cannot address because we are constantly infighting.
Name one.
Over stupid shit. Like, the poor
people have less racial tension and racism when they live together.
Right here, she says that. Like, how many times did she interrupt him before? Like, so many times. Yet she's shushing him. If I was Zan, I would have gotten so fucking mad. I think he does too, but I would have been like, okay, we were here, now you're going up to here. What Zan should have done is met her at that level. Because I know a lot of with debate, a lot of it comes down to optics. You want to always stay like calm when the other person is like fucking screaming their brain out. You always look good, no matter how like like what you say, you always look way better, and a lot of more people will think you won the debate when you're calm and not yelling out loud. But she's not yelling. She's just, just sneak this, not even sneak this. She's like carefully like dissing him, and that makes him look more like cucked. Makes him look a little bit weak, and he should have just met her on that level. That's what I would have done. And this is like by one of my biggest issues with the debate and how he what's it called, how he performed.
Xander,
All right, one sec. Just to
let Brittany talk. Let Brittany talk. Okay.
Otherwise,
All right,
let's get into 2-minute segments.
Yeah, Xander. Okay, so yeah, no, we have as far as like black and white people, poor people, they probably have a lot of economic in common, a lot of economic issues in common, and yet they are completely on the opposite ends. A lot of white people in general are willing. Is there any policy actually that you would be willing to sacrifice economic gains to achieve? How do I think about it?
A policy that would sacrifice economic gains to achieve?
Yeah.
I honestly, like I said before, the policies I advocate for are ones that are like a rising tide that raises all ships, right? Like one of the biggest examples that I brought up just on stream recently is a way that black people are kept down, and a policy that would help both black people and white people and people of every race is the current federal criminalization of marijuana. Means that states where dispensaries are allowed to exist and you can sell marijuana legally, unfortunately, as long as it's federally legal, banks will not loan to people who need a loan to start a business, which means that the marijuana industry, marijuana being a drug that black people in this country have been disproportionately policed and arrested and incarcerated for, despite not using it more than white people for a very long time, you would think that like in these states where you have dispensaries and weed being legal, that like the black community in these areas could possibly see some level of recovery because of that. But unfortunately, due to its federal criminalization, you can't get loans. You have to have the capital at your expenditure already to be able to start a dispensary, and you can only operate in cash, and there's just a lot of roadblocks in the way. Just federally legalizing weed and making it so that like anybody could go get a loan to start a dispensary like they could any other business is just, that would literally help everybody and black people. These are the types of policies that I advocate for. None of the policies you're going to see me pushing for are going to be about taking white people out of power and putting black people in their place. That's not what anybody who's sane on the left is advocating for.
No, I wouldn't think that would be anything that you would advocate for, of course.
And I think one thing he should have done, is when he, I think before, I just realized that now, I should have said it now, when he said that doesn't born out of data, and she just like moved past it, and he let her move past it. You should be like, okay, what would you advocate for? What studies do you have that like prove your point? And just she might like want to weasel out of that point, but you need to keep her in there. You got to keep her there, keep her in that point, because I guarantee she doesn't have one.
But I'm just saying, like, I'm sure there are policies. I mean, I don't know technically that was one of them, but I know there are policies that people would be willing to sacrifice some economic gains to achieve. A lot of people are willing to do that when it comes, to immigration. Yeah, I guess you can say that in the short term, immigration is an economic gain for the country, but some people are also going to be pushing.
When she's done, he should be like, the fuck you talking about? Immigration is a short-term economic gain. No, it's a short-term and a long-term. It's just good overall. Immigration does not hurt the country at all. None of the data says that it hurts the country at all. The only thing it hurts are like other immigrants and people who did not graduate high school. That's it. Just low, super a minority of a minority. But everybody above that, it helps. And she might say, "Oh, immigrants commit no crime." No, they do not. Study actually says immigrants actually commit less crime than a native population. And when immigrants have children and their children actually become natives, that's when they start committing as much crime because they're natives. That's when they start committing more crimes because they're actually natives of the country. So again, immigration, 99.9999% great for this country. There's like nothing bad. with it.
The fact that we don't want to become a minority in our own country. When people tell you, oh, okay, well, why don't you just go move to one of these like white countries or whatever? It's kind of, I mean, isn't that like exactly the point? We're being run out of our own country. Jesus, can you hear the dryer? Is it loud?
The way, yeah, I can hear it a little bit, but it's
Okay,
not too.
I might want
It's
to like go
barely
like
in the
turn it
background.
off because hold on a second, maybe not. All right, sorry. All right. I think
Yeah, you said we are being run out of our own country. Nobody's being run out. This is actually, I think now's a good time to tackle
There
the
you go. It's like we only had one black president, but after him we had two white presidents again, and you can just say white people still own like 90% of this country, if not even more. So like white people being run out of the country, huh? Huh? Where? Huh? I don't see it. Nobody sees it. You're just making shit up.
list, the idea of replacement. Now, the term replacement necessarily has to be referring to generationally on a generational level, people of a different, I guess, demographic are being born at a faster rate than people of a certain demographic are dying out. That's what replacement rate is.
But I don't care about the replacement thing. That's not my issue. My issue is more about becoming a minority in the country, in our country. That's my.
Yeah, that's not even going to happen in your lifetime. And
this is a bad argument. That's a really bad argument. Oh, that's so bad. He shouldn't have said that, because it's saying that it's not going to happen in her lifetime, which is, I don't think that's even true. I think studies say 2050. That's when it's going to happen. He should have said it doesn't matter. None of the data shows that when white people become the minority, they're gonna be outrun. None of that says anything, and he should. I tried to look this up. I couldn't find it. Anything of because she says, and her basic argument that she's afraid that once white people are minorities, the minorities, the people of color, are gonna start treating white people like white people are treating us, which I couldn't find any argument data specific on this, but I did watch like a video that said that when that actually happens, the people who are being oppressed are actually way nicer to the other group of people. Group of people. So again, I couldn't find a study, but I need to find that video again. And again, when it shows that she's just fundamentally wrong with her fear.
Want to prevent the problems that you think. No, we're not. White people are not going to be a minority in our lifetimes.
A minority, like what, in 2050?
No, I don't think that.
Hold up, I gotta show this. I think she's right. I think Xanderhaul is wrong. Let's become minority white in 2045 census projects, but it could be wrong. But again, she is right about this, and he should have just bit the bullet and should have just agreed with her, because this is right. But he should have just, instead of being like, oh, that's not true, he should have just made a different argument again, because it says it's right. But this could be wrong, because a lot of census before says that we're gonna get like 9 billion people, but now I think the 9 billionth person would just never be born, because when countries get more advanced, get like more like, I'll say smoothen out, or I'll say become more first world countries, their birth rates actually go drastically decrease and actually go down. That's what's happening in America, specifically happening in Japan as well. So again, it could not be true as well.
Math lines up perfectly.
Yeah.
But for right now, the study says that it's true. So that's what we had to go by.
There's a lot. So the birth rates of millennials in this country and of Zoomers. Well, Zoomers aren't exactly birthing age yet, but if the birth rates of millennials continue with the same track for Zoom,
I don't know what he said. I'm 20 years old. I don't want no kid. Fuck that shit. Maybe he's wrong, because I did hear that. I think he is right about millennials not having kids at the age, but I don't know about Zoomers. I forgot where I heard it, but I said Zoomers might not actually have kids as that much as well. But again, I could be wrong.
Zoomers for Generation Z.
I know I don't want kids.
Yes, you can make that argument. But right now, at least when I've read about it, the low millennial birth rate has more to do with economic issues and just issues with finances.
Hold on one second. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Xanderhaul, he's just let's skip until she comes back because that's when the debate.
So you
Okay.
can get in-person tickets for that event in Dallas, and the crowdfund is in the description box as well. That way you can watch all the debates or throw into the crowd.
I'm like
Or-
hating
So-
you. All right,
So what do you mean? What do you mean when you say that white people are being run out of America?
I'm saying that's one of the arguments that you hear when we talk about these things is, okay, we'll go move to one of those white countries, which there are not very many left, and every single one is kind of experiencing like mass migration that's happening into their countries, and there's no real place for white people to go anymore. There really isn't.
Wait. What do you mean no place for white
Because
people? Are
every
white
si-
people trying to escape the brown people?
For people who might not want to become a minority, people who might not want to experience any kind of racial revenge that could possibly emerge, where do they go if that was to happen? Where are they supposed to go?
Say fuck them.
Why don't we just not encourage
Let's not have
racism and
racial
fight
Yeah.
against
revenge.
it? What-
There's not gonna
let's
be
not
any
have
revenge
racial
if you-
revenge.
If there's not gonna be any racial revenge, and if you think there are, I'm just like, there's like really nothing I can say because there's like no data to prove it. You're just going into it. You're just thinking of a conspiracy theory at this point, and you say, I guess, fuck them or something. I don't know what I would have said here.
I would like that. I would very much like that.
I don't think we're heading in the direction of a race war right now. It doesn't seem like
He should say this: the only way we're gonna go, or the only way we're gonna have a high likelihood of going to a race war, is that if there's a lot of people thinking like you, like we're going to a race war, so they do anything in their power to make minorities' lives worse. That's like the only way we'll go into a race war. And she's the one being afraid of it. Yet she's the one that if everything goes her way, it's gonna happen because that's what she's gonna do to make it happen.
like that's the way that we're going. BLM is like an example of this. Granted, like general support for it has gone down since Biden got elected, but like BLM had massive amounts of support among both black, white, Hispanic, so on Americans. Like it seems like we're seeing a massive increase in multiracial cooperation to fight for rights. It doesn't seem like we're having this like do you think like that one, it's like that one image where it's like MLK's ghost in the sky and the two white guys picking cotton and the black guy with the belt whipping them while they're picking the cotton? Like
I've seen that,
I just don't think that's the future we're heading towards.
Okay, you haven't like obviously like I've gone down these routes.
Instead of say I don't think, he should say I know that's not where we're going to, because he would be right 100% right. We're not going down that road. Like I said, the only way we go down that road if people like her start getting to power and start like making shit to like make that happen.
Rabbit holes since this whole red pill. I don't think you probably have seen a lot of some scary freaking shit. Some of it where you'll see groups of black people like scattered out, telling them to go get every white person you see. I've seen a lot of this anti-white stuff where they are just like literally beating people up for being white. This stuff is kind of scary. Again, we are still in the majority and this is happening. Like, what the fuck is going to happen when we are the minority?
You can be like, okay, she sees this on like social media. Be like, okay, I see a lot of social media. I don't want to see it, but I see a lot of social media, people shitting in the streets. Does that mean everybody's shitting in the streets, or we're going down a future where everybody's shitting in the fucking street? No, we're not. You can just be like, okay, that's just, again, you just nail her to the data and to like specifics and shit, and just say, oh, you can literally find anything anywhere online about any topic.
Tell me
Okay.
something to ease my fears, and I would love to not have these fucking fears. Like, I would absolutely love it. So please, please tell me something.
If white people are meant to be a minority by 2050, I hope for one, let's say that does happen.
Okay.
What line of events do you think has to occur for us to reach the point that you're afraid of? Let's work
It's
through
already
that
happening,
first.
Xander. It's already
It's
happening.
not already happening.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
You're being sheltered from it because it is happening.
I'm not sheltered from it at all.
I think you are.
Listen, Brittany, you do know that my most popular video on my entire channel is about how I was all
See, she's being like super like passive aggressive with him, and he's just not like being passive aggressive against her. So it makes her look like a lot better than he is right now. So he needs to be more passive aggressive just to meet like with where what she is going.
Right ones. I know all these talking points. I've seen all the data. I've heard all the arguments from the alt-right when it comes to like the danger of white people being replaced and becoming a minority. I've heard all of these arguments. I'm very, very aware of the reasoning. It just doesn't hold up to scrutiny. It's just not a realistic outcome that's going to happen. If you want to prevent this future, engaging in tribalism is only going to make the problem worse. What you're advocating for is the very same racial separation that will only cause the problem to get worse. Like you said, humans are naturally afraid of the unknown. We need to make people of other races not the unknown. We don't want white people to be the unknown for black people or Hispanic people or whatever, and we don't want it to be the other way around either. That's only that future that you want is more likely with the policy that you're advocating for.
See, that would be all
that
fine
true.
and dandy, and that's again
That's a good argument.
when lefties talk about this ideal world we wish we lived in that just doesn't actually exist. But the fact we are constantly teaching so much of this anti-white stuff and all the bad things that white people...
Again, she says anti-white. Anti-white is... What she says is anti-white is just teaching America's history. Teaching about slavery. Teaching about Jim Crow. And all the other shit like that. And we don't even teach as much as we need to because there's so many like other bad moments in history that just get glossed over, that just not even mentioned at all, that we do need to talk about. And it'll actually help like all the groups come together than like separate apart.
I'm still talking. I know you're about to do it. Don't do it. All the bad things.
Again, she like... He was about to talk, yet sometimes when he talks, she interrupts him. So he should like speak to her like the same way she's speaking to him.
That white people have done it. What do you think is going to do? It's literally going to cause people to hate. I mean, white people hate white people. That's how much this propaganda is freaking working. I was one of those white people that hated white people. So what the fuck?
You say yes, you're true, but you're like half true. Again. She thinks like white people were like, oh, I hate the straight white man. That garbage shit that I do not like. But he should go into the other argument. Yeah, white people will hate white people. And by that, again, like I said before, having people hating Italians just because they're Italians, hating Irish people just because they're Irish people.
I love white people. I don't...
excuse me, I saw your omegle. I have...
That guy was a Nazi who was screaming the N-word. I was screaming over him yelling the N-word, okay? No, but I guess you're doing the thing. Like, do you think that minorities want to take revenge on white people?
I do. I do. I think that is something... I'm not every single one, obviously, but I do think there is this anti-white hatred that's going on, and I worry about what happens when white people do not have the kind of power that they are able to hold on to right now to stop it, because they are not doing a great job even with them being the majority.
So Obama was black and he was president. Why
It's news to me.
Right there, he should have been like, I'm talking. Why you interrupting me? I'm talking right now. Why you interrupting me? Right there, he should have just responded to her like that.
God.
So we had a black president. Why didn't we see any of that from him, Why, like, you would think that if there was if we had a black president elected...
She keeps interrupting him. I know I can't say it, but next time if he watches the video, I hope he does. She's like interrupting. You need to meet her at the same rate that she's meeting you. That she's like giving you.
I mean, we saw hate crimes from white nationalists and white supremacists go up under Trump. You'd think under Obama you would see like anti-white hate crimes and like black separatist not black separatist, but like anti-white hate crimes. You would think they'd go up. Hell, even Biden being in office, you'd think you'd be seeing left-wing anti-white hate crimes go up, right?
You know that Obama was like the first social media president, right? I mean, you might be too young to know that, so...
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, Twitter was like... When did Twitter come out? Like 2006?
Well, 2008 is like kind of when social media started to skyrocket.
Someone in Xanderhaul's chat said something like pointing out something really good. But again, I probably wouldn't say this about chat. Or maybe, I think he has his chat off. I think later on in the Q&A section, he actually puts his chat back on. But his chat said... that the KKK back in the day said the same shit that she said, which is very true, very, very true. You can point that out. The KKK literally is saying the same thing that you're saying right now. and it hasn't happened. And he said it's gonna happen super soon. It's gonna happen in their lifetime. It's gonna happen like next year or some shit. Because getting rid of Jim Crow and getting rid of segregation was gonna make white people power go down. You should argue the same thing. You should have said that.
In general.
But again, I don't know if you had a chat on, if you could have watched it or not.
I mean, yeah, there was stuff here and there, but it was like MySpace, way before your time, though, chat.
Okay, but what's this have to do with?
I'm saying that don't you think that social media also plays a huge role in some of the stuff that we are dealing with in some of the
social media makes it easier for a president to radicalize their base. That's how Trump stoked his fans into doing the Capitol riot with social media. That only helps my argument. The idea that that Obama or Biden could reach their left-wing anti-white.
Do you think Obama used social media
audience?
Trump did? Come on.
I mean, he could have, but he
didn't.
It doesn't because the left doesn't want to start a race war, is why.
Obama didn't want to start a race war. Obama was somebody who literally he was one of those, I think I even saw an interview where he was saying he was worried about not being black enough for black people, not being white enough for white people, and he was in that center where he was trying to please both sides and walk that line. In a way, in this country, I feel like that is the best line you can actually walk, because I'm a big Obama fan. Sorry to people that.
All in all, what she just said right now is that he was one of the good ones. That's just what she said just now.
That's probably going to piss a lot of people on both sides off, but I'm a big Obama fan. I think he was a really good president. I think he did a really good job, but he was the first social media president, and that there were a lot of problems that arise because of social media that we don't ever think about.
Why not use Biden as example as well? He could have used Biden. Biden's not doing the same thing Trump's doing. Because Biden's not fucking crazy like Trump is, or like an egomaniac like Trump is. Biden's still bad,
somebody
though.
Like you who literally grew up in the social media age, that was your world. But for a lot of other people, we had to adjust to this entirely new world where information was coming at you so much faster. Yeah, hate groups were rising. People were able to get into conspiracies a lot easier. There were people who were going with like-minded views, and you're getting information before you can actually have any facts. And there was a reactionary kind of environment going on. And I think Obama took a lot of heat for some of the things that were actually caused by social media. But I don't think that but I think that for our country in general, and if you look at the way our social media is going now, we're not even able to, right-wingers are literally purged off of every freaking platform you can have. Every single one. They're not allowed to have even a space online anymore.
Didn't Twitter come out and say that they specifically have to be more lenient when enforcing the rules of their TOS on conservatives? Because if they weren't, then there'd be virtually no. It was a few years, or 2 years ago, I think, maybe a year ago. They came out and they said they had to be more easy on conservative politicians and public figures when it came to,
I believe that
TOS. Because if they enacted their TOS as they would anybody else, basically every conservative politician would be banned off of Twitter. So they have to kind of play it easy there. They've admitted they had to do that. They gave Trump so many chances.
You should meet the new CEO. I literally got banned off of Twitter for following somebody on the right. That I'm not even kidding. I didn't break.
She lies about this. She's straight up lying about this. And when Xanderhaul asks her questions I don't believe you, just following somebody, and then they go down this road and she gives more detail that just shows that she's lying.
Break any TOS. Somebody I was following had a Twitter space, and everybody that was in that Twitter space got banned, suspended completely. No warning, no nothing, just banned.
What was the Twitter space about?
It was a Fuentes Twitter space that he had, and
Nick Fuentes was, he was the biggest Nazi presence, social media presence, back in the day. He's not anymore because he got banned off every fucking platform and he's irrelevant now. But that's what she's talking about. Nick Fuentes was the face of Nazism.
And everybody in that, but no, who cares?
And it's funny how his last name is Fuentes, and he has his grandmother is Mexican, and he's a Nazi, and he says he's white and he wants the eradication of people of color, which is funny because he has person of color DNA in him.
Like, why should the people that are just listening in a Twitter space or following somebody get banned? In what world is that okay?
I
There
mean,
you go. She just said following him, and then she added, "Oh well, we're actually like in a group chat together." So I think Twitter saw what they were talking about and like, oh, let's ban him.
Twitter makes the rules, I guess. Don't get me wrong; these platforms practically are not very good at upholding their TOS, and you've probably seen me complain about that plenty on Twitter. But I mean, I don't. Nick Fuentes is a public figure who's a neo-Nazi and is banned off of Twitter. It's not exactly surprising that people hanging out in like a fan club group. Do you disagree with that? Do you think Nick Fuentes isn't a Nazi?
No, I don't think he's a Nazi. I don't think he's a Nazi.
There you go. Boom. Sus meter. Like 8, I think. But yeah, Nick Fuentes undeniably a Nazi. If someone like her says that he's not a Nazi, or someone like disagrees that he's not a Nazi, they're probably a Nazi, and they're just trying to make him look and sound better than he actually is. No, he is a neo-Nazi, and he's been one of the worst things I heard him say is that he was secretly videotaped and people posted online, and that videotape says that if a woman had sex with a black man, he compared it to bestiality. If you have sex with a black person, you know, he's pretty much having sex with an animal. That's what he said. Not me, Twitch. That's what he said. He is 100% a neo-Nazi racist piece of shit. So again, if someone defends him by saying, "Oh, he's not a Nazi," they're not. They're a Nazi.
I think he has maybe some controversial views, but I don't think he's a Nazi. And I think like we throw that term around quite loosely. But
and he also doesn't think the Holocaust happened. He doesn't think like 6 million Jews died. I think it was 6 million. Yeah, he does not believe in that, and he believes, and this is like the one thing that separates a fascist from a Nazi. He believes in the JQ. He believes that Jewish people control the world, and they're trying to eliminate the white person and white people. So, yeah. That what makes a Nazi. That is what makes a Nazi.
I don't even
believe
think
in that.
Nazis are even actually a real thing anymore. So
They go, no, the sus meter.
But
if someone's downplaying Nazis, they're a Nazi because they're just trying to they're trying to hide their power level.
Yeah, no, I just think that the way we're not even able to live in the same internet spaces where you're not even going to have any kind of like human contact with somebody. You're not going to be able, I mean, it would be literally the safest place to be somewhere. And we can't even be in these same internet spaces. So yeah, we're supposed to be able to be in the same country. I don't know.
What percentage of the left do you think is anti-white?
I don't know.
Oh, Zan! Oh my God, Zan! You should have pushed back so fucking hard. There was a slam dunk pushback. There could have been all the things I would have said. Xanderhaul actually knows more than I do, so I have no idea why he didn't push back on her. That should have been an easy slam dunk, and another reason why I think he I don't know. There was something wrong with him because Xanderhaul is usually good at debates. I don't know why he was bad in this one.
Don't know, but I'm sure there's quite a bit. I think it's not. I don't know if they even recognize that they are anti-white. I think that they have like this anti-white guilt. I literally had it myself, and I went through like the worst cognitive dissonance going through this whole red pill process. So I know what it feels like where I was going through this, and I felt like some of the thoughts I was having were fucking with me a bit, and I didn't want to have those thoughts because I know that this is where my black pill came in too, because there was a lot of problems I was recognizing that there were no solutions to, and that freaked me out as well. And yeah, so I've been a little bit more red to black pilled, if anything. But I think that the fact the propaganda is so strong that so many white people are so anti-white is not a good sign.
I hate to say it, but I think you've red pilled yourself into supporting anti-whiteness.
Wait, what?
I know it sounds strange, but like the groups you've said that you agree with here are explicitly, like, for example, the Hoteps, a group of people that you said are just looking out.
He should have been like, I explained it to you already. Were you not paying attention? I'm sorry. Did you not pay attention to most of our debate? He literally gave a good explanation of what hoteps are, and she was like, I don't know what they are. It just shows that she was being bad faith to me. That shows
they black separatists, black nationalists, etc. They're part of that umbrella. Those are the groups that I see who at least claim to be on the left that put out the most virulent anti-white anti-white racism and anti-white hatred, and they're allying with the types like America First, Nick Fuentes, the Proud Boys, all of that, and they're very anti-white. The only reason these groups are coming together is because they both want segregation, and your virtue signaling support for this type of initiative. And it's ironic because these are the types of people where I'm seeing all the, like, every bit of anti-white rhetoric I see from the left are people enabling and supporting these like black separatists, black nationalists, or hotep types, and you're signaling support for those people who are the types I've heard the most anti-white racism from on the left.
But I almost would rather them be honest about it, if anything, and like, no, okay, they don't want to live amongst white people, and for white people, they should.
He should have held her on that of her being anti-white, because she just moved past that. She just pivoted past that point.
Didn't have to live,
or not. I don't know if it's pivoted, but she just.
I feel like that choice should be allowed
answer that question
in this country, and it doesn't seem like it is. We had this like forced integration that's happening, and what. Again, if we're having all of this propaganda that's being pushed, what results do you think that's going to cause if that's the case? You're pushing people to be around people that they don't like, or that they have been like trained to not like, and telling them, okay, now.
No one's have been trained to not like people. Well, racist people have been trained to not like other people, because racism is not genetic racism. You have to be taught to be racist.
You have to be in a company with them. You have to be in a school with them. You have to be in this community with them, and
because that's a big way to combat racism, is to be around other groups of people.
Deal with it. What do you think that's gonna do?
We gotta see if like anti-white hate crimes go up. I guess it seems like the country's just getting more and more progressive as it gets more and more diverse.
Sheltered.
How am I'm not sheltered. I live in Palm Springs. It's like it's like an hour drive from the border to Mexico. Like you'd think that there'd be. Like I've gone to LA and shit. I've seen a good amount of stuff. Like I don't know why the you're sheltered thing is an argument from you. I've used.
Yeah, he should say that. Oh. So you think people can't fundamentally be around each other? What about in big cities like LA, Chicago, New York? Why aren't they just killing each other, just burning the whole city down? It's not happening. And when there are killings, it's usually like people of the same race killing each other, not like other people races killing each other. So he should ask her that.
There's data to back up what I've said. The data from sociologists, criminologists, everything seems to demonstrate that exposure reduces the amount of racial animosity and racism that somebody has, right? And you're using, well, I have common sense, you're sheltered, that's my argument.
I think.
Do you understand where the disconnect is here?
Well, I think that what I mean by being sheltered is a lot of the people in these communities are, I would say, terminally online. I'm probably one of those as well. But when you have, like I said earlier, that all these right-wingers are being pushed off of the internet completely, it's a lot easier for left-wingers to get their messages out than it is for right-wingers. Like, left-wingers can kind of push whatever freaking message they want on any platform they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. Right-wingers are not able to do that. They are kicked off of everything, so they are not able to counter any of this stuff. They can't even talk about half of these things because it's against TOS.
I got false striked by YouTube twice in a row because I talked about vaccines.
Yeah,
Any
I got
YouTuber,
one of those too.
anyone who talks about COVID or anything that's a controversial topic at all might get the strike on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. Because it's an algorithm, and all these platforms care about is maximizing their revenue. And small creators that have no accountability talking about these topics is a threat for YouTube's bottom line. They aren't pushing an ideology. YouTube doesn't want to push an anti-white. You'd think YouTube would be banning every conservative right-wing creator on their platform, and Twitch would be doing the same if that was their goal. They're not pushing for some anti-white, American anti-whatever narrative, okay? Like,
Again, you should ask, why is Ben Shapiro still on the platform? Why is on YouTube? Why is Steven Crowder still on YouTube? Why can what's his name, Jordan Peterson, still on the? You could just name off like huge conservative people on YouTube and other platforms that are not deplatformed at all. So you just prove her point wrong.
I'm actually curious. This is a question that I have. What about whiteness?
Is it a question you have or your chat has?
I have it.
Okay.
What about whiteness?
Again, they're right there. The fucking passive aggressiveness right there that he needs to combat against, but he doesn't ever at all. It made me upset. He definitely needed to push back on that.
You is worth preserving. Why do you want to preserve whiteness?
This is not like my question, because I don't really, it's not about it for me. Like, I'm not somebody who is like, oh, I'm trying to like save the white race or anything like that. I honestly do not care.
She does. You fundamentally are. The arguments you are making, you are making, I want to save the right to the white race. That's what she's doing right now.
What this is for me. Like, I have very different goals than a lot of the white nationalists have. So that might be their goal. For me, I just do not want to become a minority in this country. I do worry about a racial revenge. I don't like the anti-white hate. I think that for me, being white is more of a visual thing. Like, if somebody was going after somebody, I'm still talking. If somebody was going after
again, she said, I'm still talking. All he did was go, how many times did she interrupt him? And Xanderhaul just didn't say shit.
But for being white, they're not going to sit there and ask them, like, you know, they're 23andMe or how white are you or this or that. They are going to see somebody who is, you know, blonde, blue-eyed, and they are going to be not happy if they are anti-white. So that's my issue. I don't, again, white nationalists have a very different reasoning, might have similar goals, but completely different reasoning for it. And
to say if she succeeds and she's Jewish, I think she said she's Jewish, or later on in the video she says she's Jewish. Just be like, you know, they're gonna attack you next. Like, if you get what you're advocating for, the white supremacists that you're on the side of are going to attack you because you're Jewish. Because white supremacists hate fucking Jewish people. So again, that's an argument he could make, but I don't think he makes that.
Again, I don't have any hate for anybody. I really, really, really wish it wasn't like this. I hate that it's like this, but there are so many uncomfortable truths that I have had to like face.
You know, I don't hate Mexicans. I just don't want them around me. I don't hate black people, but why are they so violent? This is the same. This is the shit she's just saying right now. And I do think that she doesn't think that she's racist. A lot of people I think a majority of people who are racist do not think that they are racist.
That I didn't like it, but they are the reality. And it sucks that it's the reality, but it is the reality. And what really annoys me is the fact that you can't talk about this because then you are like lambasted, this horrible, horrible person, just by pointing out uncomfortable truths. Why is that okay?
I don't think you're calling out when you say things like I'm just pointing out uncomfortable truths, that comes off as a dog whistle. That's something that like right-wingers for a long time will have used as a defense against any.
I don't think that was the argument should have made. You should have attacked something else in her argument. I think that was the weakest thing that she said about the truth. Of course, yeah, he is right that a lot of right-wingers say that they are speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth, you know. But when you look at the source and like the facts and the data, they're not speaking the truth. They're just speaking their feelings that they think it is the truth. Yeah, he is right to attack, to like say that, but that should be like a small thing and then move on to another thing that she said.
Criticism is, I'm just asking questions. I'm just telling the brutal, honest truth. I'm just telling it how it is, the uncomfortable truth. Like it just comes off as a little sussy to me. But I guess. I'm sorry. My chat said something funny.
Stop looking at your chat. See, I don't have a chat.
He can look at his chat, so he could have said like some other shit like what chat is saying. So
again, be able to look at. So you can't look at your.
They're just spamming emotes and jokes. Okay, they're not backing me up or anything. They never back me up.
I got a spy in there that's seeing if you're gonna be stealing notes.
They're just spamming the emo of Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad doing the sus face. That's what they're doing right now. I guess. So you believe that there is an overwhelming, or at least a growing, animosity towards white people in our society. You believe that immigration is going to result in more non-white people coming to this country, learning, I guess, how bad white people are, and then they're going to want to do a race war.
I think with how much we are talking and how much we are pushing so much of the anti-white hatred, that yes, that when the time comes, white people are the minority, and with how much, I mean, I get, like, we are trying to right a lot of the wrongs that happened in the past, and like, it seems like almost like white people are going to be having to get punished for the sins of the past. They're getting, like, they really are being punished for the sins of the past, whereas black people, they might be.
Name some, please. Name some. I would like to know of white people being punished. Please, I would like to know. Name some. I don't think she can, or if she does, I think there could be something that's easily debunkable.
To get away with a little bit more, like they're filming something, they might do something illegal, but if they do something, they provoke a cop, and something happens, then they're able to get out of it because it's all about public opinion, and they're pushing a lot of this stuff. And
when has that happened? When has a person of color filmed something and got it out of, like, being in trouble because they filmed it and because they're a person of color and the other person the police officer? I would like to know when that has happened. I have never heard anything like that before. Because that might be a good tactic that I might use.
I think MLK was somebody who was also talking about that, how they would kind of try to provoke incidents that would happen. Don't you dare. would provoke things to show people how bad some of the police were and to get a reaction from the public. It's all about public opinion. And with social media, it makes it a lot easier for them to do. But I think for white...
She's saying MLK is bad for doing that. So
people,
again, not racist.
No sympathy
not racist
for any
at all.
White person for anything. They get no wiggle room for anything. One little screw up, and like the mob is coming for them. And I don't know. I think that's just it's just kind of little things like that keep building up and happening. Should worry you. Do you ever plan on having kids?
Probably not. I think I'll probably adopt a kid
a black
when
baby.
when I'm at a certain point where I've got...
Right there, be like, "Oh, you're interrupting me. What are you doing? You're interrupting. I'm speaking right now. Why are you interrupting me for?"
got like the financial means and everything, I'll probably adopt a kid that already needs a home. I think that like there's a lot of kids out there in the foster system who are ending up in really shitty situations. A really close friend of mine was in one of those situations, and she was sexually assaulted by one of her foster parents. And I just hope that if I have the money for it one day, if I'm going to have kids, I can just provide a good home and upbringing and a financial stable living situation for a child who already needs a place to be, you know?
No.
I guess that's my goal, but I have a question.
I got an answer.
When you say white people will be a minority in this country, what do you mean by that? What does minority mean?
Okay, I know that if you were to, they'd still not be a minority because you have a lot of different other groups. But I feel like with how much people all have a grievance against white people, that there is like, it wouldn't matter if, you have a certain amount of Mexicans or black people or this or that. It's like they all have a grievance against white people. Everybody hates whitey. And so I think that is when white people are going to be the minority, when you combine the rest of them.
So when we use minority to refer to like black people or Hispanic people or any non-white like racial group or ethnic group in this country, we're not, the word minority.
And it's crazy how she thinks that minorities all think the same, which is another racist thing. Like, we're having trouble fucking getting together and agreeing on shit. Like when it comes to Latinos and black people, Latinos and Asian people, black people, Asian people. You know, we don't all agree on the same shit. So I don't understand. Like you can pressure her on that. Like people of color and minorities in this country don't all think the same. A lot of us have like so many different like views on the world and different fucking views on everything. So why did she think we're all just gonna get together and hate white people?
Minority isn't referring to them being
when we can't even agree amongst ourselves. Even black people can't agree amongst themselves. Latinos can't agree amongst themselves. Asian people can't agree amongst themselves. So why would we all agree, like as a whole, to attack white people?
The number being low.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So you're arguing that white people will become a minority in the same sense that non-white people in this country are, not out of number, but in power and wealth
It's a little
and
bit of
whatnot.
both. It's a little bit of both, but yeah, like I think that it's just not going to be good for white people in general. Like,
Wait. So you think
okay,
do you think your life is going to be affected by this? I'm curious.
do
if
I
this
think my
happens.
life is going to be affected by this?
Yeah.
Mine personally, I don't know if mine personally is. I worry about my sons. I worry about
There you
my
go,
sons.
because he made that argument before. It's like, oh, about he was wrong about the white people becoming a minority, but he was like, oh, but it's not even gonna happen in your lifetime. Again, that's a bad argument because she cares about herself 100%, but she also cares about her children.
Life.
Well, I think your son will probably be okay.
Why?
I don't think the race war is coming. I'm gonna be honest. If anything, if there's going to be any type of race war or massive, violent, racially motivated outbreak, it's way more likely going to be like white right wingers going against like a multiracial
White
protest of
ringers.
black,
Got him.
Hispanic, and white people's way more likely.
Okay.
I mean
so,
that seems like it's way close. We
Okay.
just like following the Capitol riot, Christchurch shooting. I mean, we can even look at
And he should say that people of color are like super conservative, and they have a lot more in common mentally and thoughtfully, like Republicans do. The only difference is Republicans are so fucking racist. If they stop being so fucking racist, they will literally win every single goddamn election, because a lot of Latino, a lot of black people, a lot of Asian people, they all have like religion as like one of their big aspects of our cultures and stuff, and that goes with white people as well, so again, it's just, you can make that argument as well, that a lot of people of color will agree with like a lot of like conservative white people. It's just conservative white people are so fucking racist. They cannot agree with the people of color
the terrorism rate,
or
the
conservative, and
politically
possibly
motivated
racist as
rates
well.
for terror, it just across the world and in this country, it's overwhelmingly right wing. Virtually
I gotta shut
no.
them up. Hold on a second.
Sure. I think actually I might bring this up for when she gets back. It just might be worth referencing.
We will keep that. Xander is one of the people who that's in doubt.
Yeah, no, it like every bit of data. I mean, I could DM you on Discord if you want to see some of it, but it looks like left-wing political violence has been. It didn't really exist much on any serious scale to begin with in this country, but just it's gone down. The tiny bit that existed has gone down over the decades, while right-wing violence has been on an upward trend. It just doesn't seem like, if we look at the current trends, the direction this country is heading in, it seems like those that are advocating for more progressive policy and more equality are the same that are trying to fight against the concept of racism. I mean, you even listed when you talked about critical race theory, the main idea behind it is that in reality, the conceptions we have of race are totally bunk. They were invented in order to help support racism. The idea that the people you're claiming are anti-white are pushing is to abolish the idea of race. There's not supposed to be a concept of white and black and Hispanic, etc. Like, are you? Do you believe that these people are not in favor of racial abolition?
Wait, are you saying? Wait, hold on a second.
The idea purported by most of the types that support critical race theory, actual critical race theory, not when Republicans
Again, she's
claim
so bad faith
teaching
here.
about Martin
So
Luther King
bad
as
faith.
critical race theory in schools. Actual critical race theory, most that purport it are racial abolitionists. They believe the social construct of race is one that only results in more racial animus between us, and they want to abolish it.
You're saying that white? No, you're not saying white people are doing that.
Plenty of white people support.
Like white lefties. Okay. But even say that you're right about white people are going to be the ones that are going to go do all these horrible things and blah blah. It's still an argument against being a multiracial society, because it's still an argument that they're.
It'd be fucking hilarious. He doesn't do it, but later on, if he does debate her again, or if I debate her, or like someone else debate her, and she keeps interrupting, he'd be like, "Hey, hold on, I'm not done, I'm not finished." Okay, I'm finished. And just not say anything. That should be fucking hilarious.
That are going to happen. Shouldn't we want to protect all these groups as well from each other in general?
I think you've been
What have I been?
I genuinely, I don't think you're a Nazi. I imagine my chat. Okay, hold on, wait. I think my chat's gonna get.
There you go. Fundamental problem that he has and why he's not I think he's not even winning this debate. He does bring up some good arguments, but overall, that's why he's doing so poorly in this debate. Is because he's too good faith for her. He gives her charity, even though she says some ridiculous shit over and over and over again. And that's why I don't think he does that well as he could have in this debate. And the reason why I have a problem with his performance in this debate, I think it's because of this fundamental problem we have right here, that he doesn't think that she's a racist.
Get really mad when I say this. I don't think you're a Nazi. I think you are extremely into the white moderate pill. I think is
and this pissed me off so much because he just doesn't read her so right at all. She's not a white moderate. She's a fucking she's an alt-righter. She's She's not a fucking white moderate, man. And this becomes a fundamental problem. And when I was watching this the first time, I got so pissed off. And he does something here that's so cringy. That's so goddamn cringy. You just have to show you it.
Is what's happening.
I actually skipped this. How bad it is.
Gish gallop for too much, but I'd like to read a quote from MLK's letter from
Birmingham
jail, because I think this quote
is so bad.
Perfectly applies to what you're saying here.
Okay.
Let me take a nice drink of water first.
Oh no! Here it comes. It's so bad. Why?
Perfect H2O. All right,
He's
this
a
is
racist.
from Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I've become gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block is his stride in his
What is he doing?
Is not the white citizens' counselor, the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time, who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is much more...
The only thing that this quote goes to her is that she wants a peaceful, what is it? What do you say? A distorted peacefulness than a loud justice or something like that. That's like, even then, that's not even... That doesn't even go with her at all. I think he said something back. Hold up, let me put this back.
For another
about the quote.
Justice, who constantly says a negative peace, which is the absence of tension.
Yeah, there you go. The negative peace, and then the
positive peace, which is the presence of justice.
Positive.
Who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct...
Even then, that doesn't go with her, because she doesn't even agree. She doesn't agree with the methods, and she doesn't even agree with the, what do you say?
Who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct...
The goal she seeks. She doesn't even agree with the goal. Not really.
Direct action. Who paternal of time, who of goodwill is much more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. There's more to the quote, and I think
that quote does not fit her at all.
But I think I feel like you've white moderate pilled yourself. Like the people who are
no, she's not a white moderate.
Progressive side.
She's a racist. She's alt-righter.
Dissolution of the
she's not a Nazi, but she is racist alt-righter.
Has informed our current conceptions of race. You're claiming those are the people that want to start a race war. It's the same kind of narrative.
It's not the same negative. White moderates do not make this narrative. They don't. You know who makes this narrative? Alt-righters. They're the ones that make this narrative. This is like the worst part of the debate, and this is the part where I was like, okay, I have to make a video about this, and hopefully he does see this, because he is so bad. It's so bad.
During the civil rights movement, it's the same type of white moderate hesitancy.
Can you tell me some benefits of having a multiracial society?
She's not hesitant. She fundamentally says she wants to close the borders. That's not hesitancy. That's not. She wants to close the fucking borders. Hesitancy would be like, I don't know if he should stop like segregation, because it seems like everybody is like happy right now, you know. And hesitancy would be like, I don't know if we should open the borders. I think the way it is right now is good. That's hesitancy. Hesitancy is not fucking. We need to close the goddamn borders.
I don't think the onus is on me to say there are benefits. I
Why?
think the onus is on you to
You're the
tell
one
me
who
the
wants
negatives.
it, though.
I think it's going to happen regardless. I'm just not against it. I haven't heard any arguments against it. It's natural. I don't like no one like you're the one making the argument. We need to stop it. The onus is on you.
I feel
to
like I
make the
have made a lot of arguments on why it's bad.
I wouldn't agree, but I guess I could list some things: culture, food, stories, getting to meet new people, new friends. I've got plenty of friends that are not white that I'd hate to have never met.
Yeah, because there's so many of them here. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
She's not racist.
I met most of them on the internet, but
I'm sorry.
Okay, I guess we can go because I have like a list of things we went through, and I guess we'll go to the last thing. Nick J. Fuentes. I don't want to linger on this too much because we're talking about another person, and I don't like debating about other people. But you said that you don't think he's a Nazi.
Sure.
I do think he's a Nazi.
Okay.
Why do you say that?
I don't think that Nazis are even a thing anymore.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he might be like
Nazis are
things
definitely
like
neo-Nazis are real.
Paleocon or
That's a neo-Nazi.
Well, he's a white supremacist.
Paleo-conservative means you're a neo-Nazi. That's what it means.
define white supremacist.
He believes that black people are inherently inferior to white people.
I don't know.
He also thinks that the age of consent is a feminist construct
Okay,
that ought to be abolished.
Yeah, he's also a pedo. Which of not neo-Nazis are pedos, you know.
I mean, I could
You talk to Mr. Girl about that one, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Again, Xanderhaul, you know way more about Nick Fuentes than I do. Just give her examples. Say about like what I said before about him thinking that if you have sex with a black person, it's like bestiality. There's way more things that he has said other than that. You know Nick Fuentes more than I do because I got in late with the Nick Fuentes shit. When I got in, he was like on his way out getting like banned and shit. So I don't understand why he doesn't just give her examples. Maybe he's because he's like, oh, maybe I can't since like she fundamentally just doesn't think he's a Nazi, or she fundamentally doesn't think Nazis are real. So I can't really change your mind on this, but you can change the people's mind on who's watching. Because again, people who are watching her are not as fucking down the pipeline. They're gonna get there if you don't push back, if you don't give good examples.
Okay, all right. I mean, do you believe the Holocaust happened and that 6 million Jews? Okay, all right. Just checking in. Well, I mean, do you got any?
Say he doesn't believe in that. Say he doesn't believe in that. Don't just bring that up without like any context whatsoever. Say that Nick Fuentes doesn't believe in that. What are you doing, Zan? You're better than this. What are you doing?
Memes for me?
Do I have any memes for you?
I mean, like any questions, any talking points, any points you want me to
I wrote some
like?
things down. Hold on, let me see if I have gone through some of them. Okay. I'm kind of glad we didn't really get into the economic factor because I don't think it really actually matters that much for what I'm pushing. I mean, there are economic issues that I do have as well. It's not just this. This wasn't like the sole reason I am against immigration. But one thing that actually somebody mentioned to me recently was, with the birth rates and stuff. And it didn't even click to me because I do believe that global warming and climate change, I believe all that stuff. But I do realize that there have been a lot of those advocates who are pushing to not have kids because of overpopulation. That kind of shit worries me a little bit as well. Like, why are they pushing to not have children?
I have never heard that before. Well, I did, but I was like back in like fucking 2010 and 2012. Now I have never heard that before. You should be like, I have never heard anybody talk about that before. I heard about getting out of the like the coal and like the oil industry and going into like more like electricity, getting more like solar power, going to like nuclear shit, and like I guess you can also talk about vegans, like not eating meat and going to more vegetable diet because I know that helps with the environment. I'm not vegan, but I know that does help. You can talk about that instead of just not having kids. I haven't heard that in a long ass time.
Children when we have such low birth rates?
Um,
I'm actually asking.
if you want to look at a place that's having issues with lower birth rates, I mean, America is certainly not one of them. We have a fairly decent replacement rate.
America doesn't have low birth rates?
America does not seem to have a problem at the moment.
Absolutely, we do.
Well,
she's interrupting you again. Stop saying. You stop letting her interrupt you. Just be again. You need to push back because every time you interrupt her, even accidentally, she's just like, "Oh, I'm talking." Shh. She gives that like the passive aggressiveness. You need to do the same.
Right now, millennials aren't having kids because of the current economy and the difficulty for them to build wealth and get a place. But like outside of that, it seems like our replacement rate just broadly in this country is not nearly as bad as it could be. If you want to look at a country, a matter of fact, this actually supports my point. Japan, very, very.
Hey, he brings up Japan finally. I guess better late than never, But yeah, Japan like completely like not completely destroys her argument, but does make a huge dent into her argument.
Very racist country. Very, very racist. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Okay. Japan is a very, very racist. They sided with Hitler in World War II.
Yeah, and you could say that as well. And I also know that Japan also has Japanese only like places where you can only go in there if you're Japanese descent. So again, yeah, Japan is super racist.
Dude, it's a very racist country. They are not a big fan of black people.
Let's bring them on over.
She's saying bring them over because they're racist. Again, Zan, what are you doing?
Yeah,
she's definitely a racist.
Yeah, very xenophobic country, and because of this, they take in like no immigration. They've got very tight immigration. Their birth rates are just. Their birth rates are so low, I think more people are committing suicide. Like, I think their suicide rates are, like, starting to catch up with the birth rates in Japan right now or something like that. Very, very, very bad shit. That's not the future I want to see for America. Ironically enough, that's an example of a country that's doing exactly what you're advocating for. And they're not exactly having the best time. They're not doing well there. But
I'm not familiar with Japan and all
I highly recommend looking into it.
I will. Absolutely. Want to send me something too? I'll look at that. No problem. Like I said, I'm open to being unred pilled. I would love to be unred pilled.
She's not open. She says she is, but she's not. She's definitely
not. It's not been good for me. I mean, I've gotten a lot of shit because of all these views. I didn't want to have these views, but
the red pill is just acknowledging.
If you didn't want to have these views, you just don't have. It's like I know it's like it sounds like easier than it is, but you can get out of these views if you want to be out of these views. And Zan has getting. Even though he's doing like bad right now and like bad overall, he has put up some pretty decent like rebuttals to her shit, and she just hand waves them away.
Issues that exist, blaming it on the wrong groups, and then advocating for the wrong solutions. That's all the red pill is.
It cut out that first part. Say that again.
All the red pill is acknowledging the same issues, blaming it on the wrong groups, then purporting the wrong possible solutions. That's more or less my experience of the red pill.
Perhaps.
All right, and I was right wing. Okay, I believe some shit. Okay, that is what the red pill was to me.
What made you get blue pilled then?
Hearing that the arguments these right-wingers were making weren't true. Whenever someone made a lot of arguments that I've heard on the right will point out actual issues in our society. The arguments that convinced me when I was younger were real issues in our society, whether it be the anti-feminist content that pointed out that like men have disproportionately higher suicide rates than women, or content that made claims like black people commit more crime than white people for socioeconomically related reasons. When I heard arguments like this, there was no counter out there for me to find. So when I stumbled across content that was actually able to present data that debunked those currently held positions, I got pulled out of it. And now my job is to research all of these topics so that I can debate people on it and just sort of strengthen my positions from there.
Was there one particular issue that like got you into the alt-right, and then one particular issue that maybe got you out of it?
Ironically enough, pretty similar to what you're saying. I did actually feel like white men mostly were under attack in this country, and it just seems like as I've gotten older, it just hasn't been borne out in reality. I'm doing just fine. Seems like white men in this country are doing just fine, and it was just sort of a misguided perspective. If you want to make the argument that people are being oppressed in this country and that white people are facing issues, if anything, it's capitalism causing those problems, not some cabal of people pushing anti-whiteness, or I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you guys want to go into the Q&A. We can.
We're good to go.
No.
Let's jump into it.
All right. So that's pretty much the whole video. They still they still argue a little bit more, but this is mostly Q&A. If you guys want to watch it yourself, you can. But I am running over time, and I gotta go and do something real quick. But yeah, we went through most of this video, and hopefully I give you points to show like how Xan actually put up some good points when he did, and how he could have put up way better points than he did in the video, and how he can improve on himself, and how if you want to argue against a person like this, how like good points to put up against them, and hopefully do better than what Xan did here. When it was starting, actually, and like in the middle, I was like, maybe Xan isn't doing as bad as I thought he was. But when it got to that end part, that's when he was like, okay, never mind. Yeah, he's not doing good here. He could have done way better, because he's been in the debate game for like a year, and he was doing really good before. I don't know what happened here. Again, he was like, maybe it was just his off day. He didn't feel like streaming. Maybe he was fucking high doing this. So maybe next time, what if it was like being high? Maybe don't be high. If you don't feel like streaming. But again, you have this is like the only way to make money. So I don't know what to say about that. Maybe not stream, or postpone it to a different time where you actually do feel like streaming or doing something else. But yeah, that's the whole video right now. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and sub to Xanderhaul. Because even though I did go on hard on him on this one, I still like him. I still watch his shit for debates and performances, and some just good content and good information. It's just this one, the reason why I did it, because he's decent at debates, but he just did so poorly on this one. I just wanted to just hopefully help him out and make him do better whenever he talks to somebody else like this, or talks with her again next time. But yeah,